친애하는 지도자 동지는 현명하시.
Exactly. They hate us because they ain't us. They hate us because they ain't us.
From getting plastic surgery to look more like his grandfather to executing his own family members in the most brutal fashion ever, Kim Jong Un is undoubtedly the most dangerous president on this planet. He has his people follow the craziest laws ever, and if broken, the punishments set by the young dictator are absolutely terrifying.
While the general population endures widespread poverty and hunger, the Pleasure Squad is a clear example of the regime's indulgence in excesses.
Join me, as in today's video, I'm about to uncover 20 of the most terrifying secrets about Kim Jong Un. Strengthening family ties. Kim Jong Un came out of nowhere and seized power after his father passed away back in 2011. Believe it or not, a lot of people didn't know Kim Jong Un back then, and it actually took a 5-year-long campaign to convince the nation that he was the third son of Kim Jong-un. And while North Koreans didn't really have a choice when it came to accepting their new ruler, Kim Jong-un wanted to make sure he looked perfect for the role and ended up getting plastic surgery at the age of 27. But it wasn't to look prettier or anything like that. He actually got his face reconstructed to look more like his grandfather, the founder of the Republic. Talk about strengthening family ties. But here's the crazy bit though. Since his father wasn't really that popular, he literally got plastic surgery to not look like him. I mean, maybe if you were kinder to people and didn't have all those crazy laws, they'd actually like you. But nope, like grandfather, like grandson, looking the part is better. Trademarked haircut. Did you know that North Korean men can only get haircuts approved by the president? Yeah, that's right. If you were to get a haircut that isn't approved by Kim Jong, prepare to be thrown in jail or sent to a labor camp for months. But that's only for unapproved haircuts. If you get a haircut that looks too similar to the president's, you'll probably never be seen again. Kim Jong-un's haircut, also named the Ambitious by the dictator himself, is strictly off bounds. I don't know about you, but having a president that will throw you in jail for life for copying his haircut seems pretty terrifying to me. A party animal. Military might and a nuclear arsenal are the reasons why Kim Jong-un is such a feared leader in the world. He's known for his aggressive statements and threatening policies, but the fact that he loves booze just makes things worse. What if he got drunk one day and decided to launch all his nukes? Because trust me, considering his love for booze and women, it's very much a possibility. He reportedly keeps a pleasure squad of young women and spends millions of dollars every year on costumes, lingerie, and liquor, earning the reputation of being a complete party animal. His preferred drinks of choice are cognac and the best wine money can buy. But here's the crazy bit. Some reports suggest that Kim Jong actually has girls as young as 13 plucked from schools and put through a series of tests to confirm they're virgins. And the fact that he rules an entire country despite having such serious problems is terrifying. I would not want to be around this guy if he had a hangover. He got hackers to Target Sony. Remember when Seth Rogen and James Franco did The Interview, a comedy film about the two tasked by the CIA with assassinating Kim Jong-un? Well, the real Kim Jong-un wasn't impressed at all and actually stopped Sony from the theatrical release of the film. He got North Korean hackers to infiltrate Sony, leading to a massive data leak with employee emails also being flooded online. Kim never really took responsibility for the hack, and why would he? However, considering there's a huge army of North Korean hackers now, it's pretty obvious he had some role to play in it. Now the movie was eventually released, but only online, meaning Kim Jong-un actually spooked Sony out from a nationwide release. So, if the booze and trademarked haircut weren't terrifying enough, having an entire army of hackers capable of taking down one of the biggest entertainment companies in the world should be enough. Confiscating dogs during a food crisis. Kim Jong Un has done some pretty odd stuff, to be honest, but having all pet dogs confiscated in the capital of Pyongyang during a food crisis. Now that's pretty terrifying. According to the young ruler himself, he claimed that pet dogs basically represent the indulgence of Western society, and since he cares so much about his people and wants to keep them safe from all sorts of worldly horrors, he took away their dogs. But here's the million-dollar question: where are those dogs now? What did Kim do to them? I'm pretty sure this story doesn't have a happy ending, but it does raise a lot of eyebrows because, at the time this was ordered, the country was actually going through a food crisis. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? I mean, that's what a lot of people think happened. He might have just wanted a quick fix to the food crisis, and it's possible he had all the dogs confiscated to solve the problem. Or maybe he just loves dogs. I hope it's this one, because if it's not, Kim Jong Un is one scary human being. He actually tried to keep this a secret for quite some time, but it eventually gained international attention when dog owners told sources that Kim was trying to feed people dog meat. He's actually a lover boy. This isn't exactly a terrifying secret about the scary leader, but you'll be surprised to know that Kim Jong Un is actually a lover boy. He reportedly got married to former cheerleader Ri Sol-ju back in 2009 when she was only 23 years old. Their marriage became public in 2012, and ever since then, the controversies and rumors have continued to pile up. He's said to be in a romantic entanglement with Korean pop star Hyun Song-woo, who ironically sang the hit song I Love Pyongyang. I mean, that's one way to get the supreme ruler's attention, but sometimes staying out of the spotlight is perhaps your best bet, because it's said he actually had Hyun Song-woo executed in 2013 for violating pornography laws. Turns out that was just a rumor, because Kim Jong Un appointed her as vice director of the North Korean ruling party's propaganda and agitation department. So, not only does the supreme ruler have a rich love life, but he also rewards his lovers well by literally offering them a position of power in the government. But speaking of his wife, Ri Sol-ju, it's kind of strange since she's always been spotted rocking Western outfits, which doesn't make sense at all, because Kim Jong Un has literally had people executed for following Western countries. He secretly hates t-shirts and skinny jeans. Speaking of Western outfits, did you know Kim has literally had people thrown in jail for wearing t-shirts and skinny jeans? And while I can get behind the skinny jeans bits, I can't imagine how difficult it must be to live under such a terrifying dictator. I mean, you can't wear what you want, eat what you want, or even style your hair the way you want because the president watches over everything. Not a lot of people know this, but Kim actually spent life as a young kid in Switzerland, and because he was such a huge basketball fan, he would often wear things like a Chicago Bulls jersey and Nike shoes. That's double standards, to be honest, because on one hand he's literally throwing people in jail for wearing Western outfits, while he himself spent his entire life wearing the same stuff. Not to mention how his wife pretty much wears whatever she wants as well, while commoners are jailed for doing the same exact thing. He's a military leader with no experience. Remember earlier in this video when I told you how scary it is that Kim likes to drink and has access to nukes? Well, believe it or not, he's probably the only military commander in the world with no military experience. And unlike previous rulers of North Korea, Kim actually follows through with what he says. Like all those nuclear tests, for example, whenever the terrifying dictator announces his country has developed a new warhead, there's a test shortly after. But yeah, control over the country's nukes and army, all while having zero military experience. That's just delightful. And what's even more messed up is Kim immediately sacks any general who starts to get a little too popular. Oh, and did I tell you? Nepotism also runs high in the family. The foreign minister is actually his 71-year-old aunt, who he trusts dearly, and even allows to hold policy discussions with other countries. And while Kim hasn't done anything out of pocket yet, his personality and habits sure make him seem like a loose cannon. And with the amount of power he has, it'd be terrible if this guy woke up one morning and lost it. He executed his own uncle. Kim's uncle Jang Song-thaek was actually a long-time mentor of his and taught him a lot of the things he knows today. The two had a solid relationship in the earlier days of Kim's rule, but all that turned sour when the ruthless dictator had him executed for attempting to overthrow his party. It was rumored that Jiang Song was very close to the Chinese government and was planning a coup that would replace Kim Jong Un and install his half-brother as the leader of the country. But all that changed when the North Korean government supposedly uncovered his plans, leading to his execution by firing squad in December 2013. It's interesting to see how Jiang Song went from uncle and mentor to a state criminal overnight on the basis of suspicion alone. This just goes to show you how brutal of a leader Kim actually is, since he had his uncle executed with no hard evidence to support the coup attempt. It also gets more terrifying since it's rumored that execution by firing squad is what the public was told, and that his uncle was actually killed in a much more horrific manner. A lot of sources claim that Jiang Song-thaek was actually killed by a mortar cannon, ripping him to shreds, but there are also theories of how he was fed to a pack of starving wild dogs. I don't know about you, but that's probably the reason why no one has even come close to challenging his rule since then. His kids. Kim's biggest secrets are probably his kids. It's rumored that he has had 3 children since 2010, with the eldest being a boy and the middle being his daughter, Kim Ju-ai. Believe it or not, former Bulls superstar Dennis Rodman actually confirmed he had a daughter after a visit to North Korea. Because Kim Jong Un is obsessed with basketball, being a huge fan of the Chicago Bulls, he probably paid Dennis Rodman a ton of money to visit the country. He did say his idol was Michael Jordan, but he probably didn't want to make a trip to North Korea, so he got the next best option in line to visit. Anyway, Rodman claims he held his daughter Kim Ju-ai, calling him a good dad with a beautiful family. His daughter did make her first grand appearance on international media back in November 2022 during a missile launch, though. And what's even more ironic is she's made headlines only twice, and both of those times have involved nuclear weapons. Some people even think it's a symbolic message of his daughter being the next in line to rule North Korea, but that makes me wonder, what about his son or sons? The other 2 children almost don't exist, and not a single intelligence agency in the world has any intel on them. He has a crazy list of rules for his wife. It shouldn't come as a surprise that Kim Jong Un is also a dictator when it comes to his personal life as well. The First Lady of North Korea has to live by rules, and honestly speaking, some of them are just downright barbaric. For starters, she actually had to drop her past identity and even change her name, so the name she has right now isn't real and was given to her by the state. Plus, despite coming from a respectable family with her uncle rumored as being a former military advisor of Kim Jong Un, she isn't allowed to meet her family. Oh, and the approved hairstyles and clothing aren't just for the commoners. Ri Sol-ju only wears what Kim wants and isn't even allowed to make an appearance without her husband. In short, Kim's wife lives her life as directed by the regime and isn't allowed to do anything without his permission. She's not allowed to leave the country either, and I can only imagine how tough that must be for her, considering she was brought up in China and even used to visit South Korea during her career as a cheerleader. He is known for making the weirdest rules. If it wasn't evident enough, Kim has a thing for punishing people. I mean, just think about it. If his wife has to walk on a knife to make sure she doesn't offend him, just imagine what he'd do to a commoner who doesn't follow his rules. But punishments are one thing, and the actual rules are something else. Kim Jong Un is known for setting some of the strangest rules in the world. For example, people aren't even allowed to smile on July 8th, the day his father died, and getting caught could actually lead to death. When Kim took over the country, he made a rule that no one else could share his name, and everyone named Kim had to change it to something else. Plus, if one person in the family commits suicide, 3 of the next generations are punished, and while that seems like an absurd law, there's actually a theory behind it. Since living in North Korea is nothing less than hell on earth, a lot of people consider taking their own lives instead of living a life with no freedom. But the supreme ruler has thought things through, and to prevent people from taking their own lives, He's ordered punishment for the next 3 generations, even if just one person of the family commits suicide. Oh, and owning a microwave is illegal. He's against anything international. Forget international movies, North Koreans aren't even allowed to make international calls. The state controls everything. Kim Jong Un has barred his people from watching international movies and shows. Along with this, North Koreans don't have access to any social media platform and aren't even allowed to own an iPhone or laptop. But what happens when someone attempts to make contact with the outside world? Well, Kim has them executed. Believe it or not, people have actually lost their lives for making international calls or trying to access social media on the state-controlled internet. But what do North Koreans even watch if Kim Jong Un controls everything about their lives? Well, they are allowed to pick one of 3 state-owned channels on television, which are usually full of propaganda highlighting the glory of his family's dynasty. The supreme ruler is okay with weed. Yep, you can smoke a big fat joint, but be careful. You can't listen to international music or anything of that sort. And I know what you're thinking right now. This doesn't make sense at all since he's okay with North Koreans smoking weed, but not okay with them wearing jeans. Anyway, there's absolutely zero punishment if citizens are caught with marijuana on them, since Kim Jong Un has ordered the state to take no action. Except for a little bribe, maybe. Since bribes eventually make their way up to the top, the state takes no action and lets citizens off. Some sources also claim Kim Jong has done this on purpose, since it keeps people at bay and prevents them from potentially joining hands and revolting. I mean, it's a pretty sinister idea considering he's okay with giving North Koreans a free-hand usage of weed just so they don't start questioning his other rules and laws. It also gives you a look into his character, though, and how far he's actually willing to go to maintain his grip on the country. He chooses who lives in the capital. Contrary to popular belief, North Korea's #1 enemy isn't the United States, it's actually their own people. Pyongyang isn't all sunshine and daisies considering its massive buildings and breathtaking architecture. It's actually the capital of control. Kim Jong Un controls every little detail about the capital, from when the power goes out to how it looks and to who even lives there. Only residents who are deemed to be the most loyal are allowed by Kim Jong Un to live in the capital, and what's terrifying about that is the extent of control he exercises. But that's not actually the case. It's not about loyalty or anything like that. It's all about how deep their pockets are. Only citizens who are rich enough to actually donate to Kim's party are considered loyal and given permits to live inside the capital. And when you think about it, it's actually a state within a state, because as you move away from the capital, the living conditions get worse. There are regular power cuts every night, and some cities inside North Korea don't even have enough food supplies to get by for a single day. Crackdowns are conducted regularly on illegal citizens residing within the capital and on Kim Jong Un's orders. Some are even executed to set an example. In other words, you could even say that Kim is threatened by his own people and handpicks the people who get to live in the city he controls. He disappeared back in 2014. The Supreme Leader might just be the most controversial president in the world because whenever he makes a public appearance, he's the topic of headlines all over the world. But what happens when he drops out of sight? Well, back in 2014, Kim Jong Un disappeared, sparking a massive controversy in international media, with some even reporting that he had been overthrown in a military coup. He made a grand appearance 6 weeks after and claimed he was actually recovering from an injury. How did he get injured? No one has any clue, but some people think it might be because of his liking for extravagant cheese and alcohol. Some sources claimed he was living up to his party boy reputation, celebrating on a yacht for 6 weeks straight in his beachfront resort in Wonsan. He's a brilliant strategist. Maybe Kim Jong Un just uses the Madman Act as a cover to hide the fact that he's always planning and plotting his next move. On one hand, he loves exercising his control on people and keeping them at bay by always talking about an impending invasion, and on the other, he's interested in peace talks with the rest of the world. That's the sign of a brilliant strategist, because believe it or not, his constant propaganda of facing a potential invasion actually keeps North Korea unified. And what's more terrifying than realizing that Kim Jong Un is much smarter than he seems? Even if the Madman Act is just a cover, he's playing his cards exceptionally well and continues to hold a position of power in the world. His real age is a mystery. No one knows how old Kim Jong Un is. I bet only the Supreme Leader himself knows how old he actually is, because rumor has it he even had his own birth year changed to be known as the youngest leader in the world. The US Treasury Department has listed his birth year as 1984, but some people suspect that Kim Jong Un is actually much older than that, and to keep his charm on his people, he presents himself to be a young, charismatic leader of the nation. And yeah, while there isn't any set punishment for it, I'm pretty sure Kim Jong Un would send someone to a labor camp or jail if they ever questioned his real age. He had a secret identity in his childhood. Literally, everything about this guy is a secret. No one knows his age, and what makes him even more mysterious is that he actually had a secret identity growing him. Like I said before in this video, the brutal dictator was sent to a private school in Switzerland for his early education. He was known as Park Un from Korea, but I bet not a single person there had any idea that he'd grow up to be the leader of a nation and rule with an iron fist. His parents eventually had to take him out of private school because he was a very poor student. He ordered a hit on his own brother. This guy should be called Kim the Executioner, considering he's had his own uncle and brother executed, and while we've already discussed how he had his uncle killed, the murder of his brother is just horrific. Both the deaths are related because if you remember what I told you, his uncle was actually trying to install his half-brother, and when Kim found that out, he knew he had to take him out as well. But it wasn't done in classic Kim style. He was executed at an airport in Malaysia in 2017 when two women walked up to him and sprayed a liquid on his face. The liquid was actually a deadly chemical nerve agent which led to his brother Kim Jong Nam. After that, the Malaysian authorities claimed the hit was ordered by Kim Jong Un, and it led to even more international controversy since he was widely known for murdering half of his own family out of fear of being overtaken. I'm pretty sure not a lot of people knew this because other than being a controlling dictator who exercises his power through fear and punishments, Kim has had multiple members of his own family executed. So did you know Kim Jong Un had such terrifying secrets? And what do you think is the scariest thing about North Korea's dictator? Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and see you next time.